Hello. So today we're going to cover the sinful method of carb control. Now, I've always loved it when foods are marketed or sold as sinful or indulgent or naughty. It's always been amusing to me. One of the challenges, though, I frequently see, particularly in myself, but certainly with other people as well, is there's a great deal of unconsciousness when we could talk about unconsciousness and the relation to weight loss and any number of other personal development topics for a long time. But the piece of it I wanted to speak about now is just how much are you really paying attention when you eat? Now, you could look at the diet journal as just a way of paying a little more attention to what you eat, particularly over the long term. But just in the moment when you're actually eating, how much are you allowing yourself to really enjoy what you eat? And the idea of the sinful method is just taking the time to deeply enjoy what you eat as you eat it. Indulge, enjoy what you're eating, and really pay attention to it. And the way I suggest you do this, you probably want to start with this can take a little bit of time, not a ton of time, particularly if you're reducing the quantities of how much you eat, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And like anything, it's good to start off slow and work up from there. But what if the next time you're going to eat something, whether it's more starchy stuff or more sugary stuff for you or both, whether it be the pile of potatoes or the bread or the cake, whatever else it may be, take the time to really enjoy it. Now, the method of control here is reduce it by half. That's ideal. If that seems like too much to start, you can start with 3/4. So you're either going to start with eating half of the amount you would normally eat at a meal or a snack or whatever it is, or you could, again, if that's too much, you can start with 3/4. And the goal is to just enjoy however much you eat as much as possible. And you might notice when you get full, it's harder to enjoy food. So the good thing about cutting it down to 3/4 or half is you're going to get less full, enabling yourself to enjoy it more completely. Now, my suspicion is if you actually allow yourself to enjoy the food you're eating more, you're going to have less desire to consume more food, to consume massive quantities of food. But here's some of the things you can play with. Treat it as if you're a wine connoisseur, only you're the wine connoisseur of mashed potatoes or cake or whatever it happens to be for you. Smell whatever the food is. Take a smaller bite just because you want to. You'll find you'll dial in the size of bites and everything you do with this method as you go. But to start with, it's usually easier to take smaller bites. Smell the food before you eat it. Actually smell it. Pay attention. See what you can notice. You haven't got to get sophisticated. You haven't got to, say there's hints of, vanilla and nutmeg and etc. You don't have to do any of that. Just notice what you can. So if you happen to have a sophisticated palate, I don't really, but let's say you do, go ahead and notice. If you want to write those things down, you can write them down, but just take note of them. Notice whatever you notice. Notice the smell. See if you can subtly get into the smell and distinguish different things or just the overall impression the smell gives you, whether it's just sweet or whether it's cinnamony or if there's something else to it, if it's buttery, salty, whatever it happens to be. Just enjoy the smell for a moment before you take a bite. And when you take a bite, you haven't got to chew excessively or anything like that, but I would suggest slowing it down. Slow your chewing down to the degree that you can really get a good sense for the consistency of the food, for the texture of the food, as well as the flavor or flavors of the food. And really take the time to enjoy this. Now, the chances, most of the time when I've tried to do this, at some point I find myself going back to the old unconsciousness and just jamming another bite into my mouth, chewing it up, swallowing it. I was always a fast eater, and after I was in the U.S. Army Infantry, that worsened the problem. So it's very easy for me to eat a lot of food very quickly. If you're that way too, that's fine, and you're probably going to revert to that habit numerous times as you're learning the sinful method of carb control. But as much as you can, slow down and really take time to not only experience what you're eating, but to enjoy what you're eating. And you're going to discover subtle things when you do this. You're going to discover things about flavors you don't typically like that you might like. And you might discover things about flavors you normally do like that you don't particularly care for. It's like you'll be able to dial things in a little more completely the more you practice just slowing down, paying attention, using more of your senses, and paying attention to your senses as you're eating. Really enjoy the experience. Get into it. Have fun with this. And this is one of the most fun things you can do as you're learning to create the habits that help you lose weight and keep it off. The Sinful method of carb control. This should be a lot of fun. Go ahead, give it a try. Tell me what you think. I'm Ben Langley. Thank you very much for spending some time with me. We'll talk again soon.